Hi, I'm Dana.
And I'm Matthew.
Welcome to the Nat 20 Book Club. We are today going to discuss um, a book that Matt mentions in our last video, which is
hmm
Assistant to the Villain, right here by Hannah Nicole Mayer. I'm not sure I said that right. Apologize. Um, and yeah, it was a book. Um, Matt, do you want to give the overview of just kind of what it is?
Sure. We'll just
Okay.
dive right in. So, the assistant to the villain follows the main character, Evie, as she is looking for work. And while she's traveling home through the forest one night, she gets caught up with the villain, who she quasi rescues him, he quasi rescues her, and he says who he is, and she just takes it at face value, and ta da, he offers her a job. So, this book essentially is her getting used to her role as the assistant to the villain, where she does the mundane tasks of an assistant like any other corporate job. It just maybe your boss drops a dead body on your desk first thing in the morning instead. Um, yeah, and it follows shenanigans between her. There's Rebecca, who's in charge of HR, who has it out for Evie, seemingly. There's a dragon tamer. There's Kingsley the Frog, who has little signs for help that is on the villain's desk, and we just kind of follow throughout them. There's some twists and turns, and kind of towards the end, the villain gets captured by the king, and Evie has to take on, and that's kind of how the book ends. That is a quick snapshot, real fast overview of the book. We'll get into more specifics. Well, Dana will get into more specifics, I should say, here in a few moments. But I'll give you my take of the book, and then we can
Uh,
let Dana have the rest of the time.
You should
Um,
go first.
I really enjoyed The Assistant to the Villain when The Apprentice to the Villain, which just came out a few months ago from this recording. I immediately bought it, immediately read it, fell in love again, excited. I do believe the third book has finally been announced. It's called Accomplice to the Villain. So it's going to be great. I love it. I've read the first and second book. Gonna read the third book. I won't. I'll save my score to the end when we normally do this. What I really enjoyed it was very comedic aspects to it. There were some very lighthearted, fun moments. You have her and the mental monologue. She's clearly attracted to the villain, and so she has moments of like, "Don't get excited because your boss took his shirt off, Evie. Come on now." Like just the fun internal monologue that she has. She is, in some ways, real kind of fun, realistic interactions where you feel like coworkers at work about you just having petty arguments of dispute over the water cooler, or the interns not doing their job, or people who maybe fudge their resume a little bit, and all of a sudden you have a dragon tamer who doesn't know how to tame dragons. Um, and things like that. I related to it. I thought it was fun. Definitely was nice to read a story about more adults in an adult world in this fantasy vibe. Dana disagrees everything with I just said. So Dana, what do you got?
I feel so bad because I feel like I'm about to shit on this book that you love so much.
Fine. You know what? There's been go watch. I have not liked a lot of these books that we've done so far that you've recommended. So it's about time that one of my recommended recommendations
But
hit.
at least, like, on those, you could appreciate
Yeah.
what they were trying to do.
Oh, you
Here,
can't appreciate anything.
this was the biggest disappointment of 2024 for me in terms of
Hmm.
books. I was expecting way more shenanigans, way more whimsical villainy,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I feel like I didn't get that at all.
Yeah.
um, like, yes, it was fun that we got to see um, this, like, kind of the corporate environment merge with the fantasy world,
Yeah.
but like, where's the villainy? We never actually see him go do anything. Like,
Yeah.
one day he just shows up and he's like, "Oh, I got a dragon," and we don't get to see how he went and got this dragon, and it would have been fun to see
Yeah.
him do that and bring along his assistant who has never done anything villainous and like have that just chaotic scene unfold for us. That could have been so fun, but did we get it?
Yeah.
No, we did not. And I don't know, I was really disappointed by that.
Yeah.
And then I did not like Evie or the villain at all.
No.
They were so boring. Um, like I don't understand why they even like each other, and other than the fact that they think the other is hot. And I'm like, if I'm gonna read a romance,
Hmm.
I need to see the cerebral connection. I need to feel the emotional connection. But all we get is like lustful pining and one small kiss at the end. And I was like, I don't understand why you even like this guy. All he is like broody and gloomy, and he's like an emo wannabe. And it's very obvious that like he's secretly got a heart of gold underneath, blah blah blah, whatever. Like I thought that was clear as day that it was all just kind of like a ruse, and he had his reasons for being a villain, even though we
Yeah.
never actually see him do villainous things.
Hmm.
And bodies just appear and it's given no context. I'm like, come on, like show us the villainy. I want to see it. It would be fun. And it's never there. And then like the castle where the villain lives and runs his villainous corporation, I suppose. It's supposed to be hidden, and he's been
Yeah.
doing this for like 10 years. But he's got people coming in, clocking out 9 to 5. And you're telling me no one's ever tracked him or his employees during all that time to find the castle?
Look, they took the back road. It's fine.
It's like, come on. It took 10 years and for him to hire this woman, Evie, who is the daughter of a guard, I guess,
A
to
former
finally,
royal guard. Yep.
yeah, to finally like infiltrate the castle. I don't believe it. Come on, man. And then apparently there's magic in this world, which is just vaguely hinted on throughout the whole book, and I just don't understand what the purpose of it is, other than to be just there when the author needs it to get something done. Um,
So the story can happen.
what story? There is no plot. Nothing happens. The only thing that happens is in like the last 10% of the book, which again, actually no, I haven't mentioned this yet. I didn't even read the whole thing technically. I read the first 150 pages and then I skimmed the rest of it, like real hard skims. Like I read the last half in about an hour and a half. I read it and it gave me a headache. I was just so annoyed the whole time. I was like, this was not at all what I wanted. This is not what I was expecting. Um, and yeah, I mean, like, also, what does she even do at her job?
She
She's just talking.
prepares memos.
Yeah, but like, I remember seeing at one point in the second half of the book, and maybe I missed this in all my skimming, but like,
Hmm.
she leaves her job for a little bit after a really stupid misunderstanding with the villain.
Yep.
Um, and apparently the whole place falls apart, even though she's only been there for 6 months, and everything had been fine before she was there. And I was like, well, what is she? What has she been? Oh, I guess she has been good at her job the last 6 months. I would
Hmm.
never know because didn't
They
see
don't
it.
talk about it.
Yeah. Like, what? What? Come on.
So we're clearly not doing a second episode for Apprentice to the Villain. So we'll go ahead and spoil over into the second book. If you read the book, you're definitely going to find out he takes on the title of the villain, even though he himself is not actually the bad guy of the story. He's clearly the good guy. The king he's fighting against is the actual enemy. And that does get expounded upon in the second book, which Dana's like, I would never know because we're never going to get to the second book for sure. Um, we have moments of people who had to tell Evie, which, granted, I agree, she's not exactly the brightest, light bulb in the bunch for sure. Someone had to point blank tell her in the second book, there was no position as assistant to the villain until one day he met you and then he made it up on the spot for you. Like, I think the big thing is like, what does she do? I think the idea is that she is a people person. and they never really had people person. The villain is definitely not a people person,
Mm.
but you get him to start smiling, you get the people to start working, you get the interns to stop setting themselves on fire. And like there's a lot of like the people like the silent worker behind the scene, even though she's not silent, she's quite loud. And yeah. But I get what you're saying, Dana. I get what you're saying. In terms of could they have done more? Absolutely. But at the same time, I didn't need that. I thought it was great as it was. You do see in the second book her now going on trips with the villain because this is the assistant. You don't bring your assistant to a war, but you do bring your apprentice. So Dana's like, nah, man.
What were they called in like medieval times when like
Squires.
yes, you bring your fucking squire but you won't bring your assistant? Like, come on.
Yeah. The whole dragon thing gets more important in the second book. Basically, the first book did a lot of setting up for the second book. Once you read the second book, you realize it. Which take it, leave it, whatever you want to do. Dana's throwing it away. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Well, I'm donating it. I'm not throwing it away.
Well, I meant the story, but I guess you're talking about the physical book. I guess
Yep.
that's fair. But hey, you can get nice red like page edges like Dana has if you do enjoy the story.
Yeah, actually, my one of my rabbits, Belle, she got a hold of it and took a couple bites out of it, and I guess she didn't like it because she took like one bite and moved on to a different book and destroyed that one. So even my rabbit didn't like it. Dang.
Oh,
Dang.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'm sorry, Matt. I wish I liked it. So many people like it, and I want to be
yeah.
on the bandwagon, and it frustrates me to no end when I read a romantasy like this, like Fourth Wing, which is another one that I don't care for, but you love and everyone else loves.
I enjoyed this more than Fourth Wing. I will say that. Um,
Really?
yes, Fourth Wing. Uh, we don't need to go into that. Like that's a whole
That's a
different
different
video.
video.
But I get what you're saying. Um, about this book. I agree. A lot of this probably is not as deep or as thought provoking as it could be. I agree that there are probably scenes that we hear about, like the villain comes back and says he's done this. And you're like, well,
Mhm.
that would be interesting to see how that happened.
Yeah.
I agree. The use of magic in the first book is very little. It gets much more in the second book, of course, with the introduction of his father as becoming like a quasi main character, his sister becoming a main character, versus all these people that we're introduced to as just like they exist
Yeah.
in the first book.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
Yeah. I will also add I did not like the twist at the end with the father. I hated it. I hated that twist so much. I thought it was stupid.
it's okay, Dana.
Oh man. But no, yeah, I mean like I understand that this could be portrayed as more of a like cozy type of book and
Yeah,
and that's fine. I think maybe this is my hot take. I don't know. But like just because something is cozy doesn't mean you can be lazy writing your characters or lazy writing your themes or
hmm
ignoring moral issues that appear because I think like the morality aspect of being an assistant to the villain is a very interesting
yeah,
theme to explore and it's very surface level in this and maybe it's because actually the villain has like a just cause for doing it or whatever but I
yes,
mean like just because something is cozy doesn't mean you can't explore things.
yeah. And
Um,
you actually bring up a good point that I hadn't thought about since I first read the book. Is that we know as the reader
mhm.
seeing the villain's backstory that he's not actually the villain. He's probably the good guy, the one who's,
Yeah.
going to end up saving the world. But the propaganda that's put out by the king and the he is the villain. He's known for killing and torturing royal guard.
Mhm.
He disrupts all this. And you bring up a good point that don't really talk about the morality aspect of Evie accepted the job as the assistant to the villain. Now, granted, some people will say if you are so on hard times like she was, you don't necessarily care where your next paycheck is coming from. And that could be true to some extent, but at the same time, maybe that was worth a conversation, especially when you think about she's now being mixed up in the villain. She has a younger sister, and at the time, her father is a ailing old man, as we think of through most of the show. Like, yes, you need a next paycheck, you need to survive, but are you willing to subject your family to the potential dangers that come
Hmm.
with supporting a criminal organization, which is what
Yep.
it is, regardless of how good it actually is. And at the very least, to everyone around, if it got out that she worked for the villain, you talk about being ostracized from a town that
Yeah.
already thinks she's weird.
Yeah. There was just, I think, a lot more that could have been explored. And maybe she does it in the second book, and maybe she will in the third book. I don't know. But I think part of why maybe that happened is I don't know if you knew this, but I heard that this author had actually started this on TikTok
Oh, I
and
did not.
made, yeah, and she would make like videos, where a character was being an assistant to a villain, and like it blew up on TikTok, got super popular, and she wrote the book kind of
Gotcha.
based on those videos. And I wonder if it's maybe something that you can just maybe you can just tell that this was her first novel or something.
Which is true.
Yeah. And then I wonder too if maybe this was a concept that just does better in the visual art rather than a written medium. Um,
Yeah.
because I also heard that it got picked up to be produced as a television show. I don't know.
Fun.
I saw that on Goodreads somewhere. Someone commented. Um, and I don't know who picked
It
it up, but
It
or
does
what
read very
happened.
like serial. If you think about it, like there's a lot
Hmm.
of like nice, simple chunks that versus some
Yeah,
books, it's terrible to break it up into a TV series because you're putting chunks where it doesn't belong.
yeah,
But then some books do are like, oh yeah, there's a very serial aspect to it.
yep, yep. But I thought about that too and was like comparing it to Uzumaki, which we read in our last video, and how
Yeah,
like Uzumaki was very much needed to be a manga. Um,
yeah,
and then you have this book, which I think would have been better if it just stayed in the visual medium instead of
fair
prose.
enough, fair enough.
Okay, so that's my thoughts on Assistant to the Villain. I don't know that I have anything else that I want to share.
Which is fine. If you like the book, let us know for one.
Mm,
If you're going to read the second book, definitely let us know, and subsequently the third. I will be picking up the third when it comes out sometime next year, and I will let Dana know everything that has happened. Um,
can't wait.
the story has like talk about going 360 pivot in other direction. It's quite wild. Where the story at the end of the second book leads and takes. It's you talk about being magic and creatures who are can determine if someone's soul is evil or not, and then all sorts of stuff.
Somewhat
So
cozy.
yeah, it does. And first book you could say is a cozy book. The second book starts becoming like a real book for sure. Don't know if it has the depth and stuff that you're looking for, Dana, but
I do like
it's
depth.
yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So we'll start with your rating on
Oh
a
no.
scale of 1 to 20, with 1 being a critical failure and a 20 being a critical success, just like when you roll a dice in D&D. Where did this dice roll land for you, Dana?
I'm gonna give it a nat one.
Oh, it was a straight nat one.
I was just so disappointed. Oh, the premise was so good. It had so much potential, and I feel like it was an absolute dumpster fire. I'm so sorry to this author. My opinion doesn't mean anything. Okay, Matt, you go.
I'd probably give it a 16 or a 17.
Okay.
If I had to pick, probably will give it a I'll give it a 16. Um, because of like you said, it is a very doesn't go too in depth into anything. It could be flushed out a little more. Some characters, I thought it was really funny. I thought it did a really good job of some comedic moments without because I, Dana, you know me personally outside of these videos that I'm not a big comedy fan, but I enjoyed the comedic moments in
Mhm.
here. It made it fun and refreshing. So I'll give it the 16, but I agree. I'm not going to give it like the 18, 19, 20 range because they could have been better. There are aspects for sure.
Mhm.
But this ain't going to stop me from reading the rest of the series.
Good.
So,
I hope you continue to enjoy it, and I hope if they do make a show that you watch it and enjoy it.
well, they're going to make a show. It's going to be ruined. So it's fine.
I'll just keep reading my weird books and it'll be fine.
Okay. It's all good.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Hope you all have happy holidays. I just am now realizing I'm wearing green. My walls are green and my cup is green.
Hey, you're ready. You're ready for the holidays. That's all that matters. I'm wearing red with my blue wall behind me, but it's fine.
I'm like monochrome over here. Anyways, all that to say, thank you for joining us. We hope you have a Nat 20 day. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.